After the conclusion of World War I, Italy emerged feeling bitter and betrayed by its allies in the Entente, particularly Britain and France. This sense of betrayal stemmed from unmet territorial promises, dashed aspirations, and changing political dynamics in post-war Europe. Italy, having endured significant sacrifices during the war, expected to be rewarded with the territorial gains promised in the Treaty of London, but the reality of the post-war peace settlements did not align with these expectations. The Treaty of London and Italy's expectations. In 1915, Italy entered World War I on the side of the Entente, lured by promises made in the secret Treaty of London. Under this agreement, Italy was assured several territories if the Entente emerged victorious, including parts of South Tyrol, the Trentino, Istria, Dalmatia, and territories along the Adriatic coast. These regions, held by the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time, were strategically important to Italy and seen as vital to realizing Italy's territorial ambitions and bolstering its influence in the region. The promise of these lands swayed Italy to leave its neutrality and abandon its former allies in the Central Powers. Changing priorities at the Paris Peace Conference. When the war ended in 1918, Italy anticipated that the Paris Peace Conference of 1919 would solidify these territorial gains. However, the political landscape had shifted. British and French leaders, worn out by years of devastating conflict, were more focused on achieving a stable and lasting peace in Europe than on adhering to wartime promises. Further complicating matters was the presence of U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, who introduced a new vision for international relations through his 14 points, which promoted self-determination for nations. Wilson's principles stood in direct opposition to the secret deals that prioritized territorial expansion based on wartime alliances rather than the desires of local populations. In this context, Wilson opposed the Treaty of London's provisions that would grant Italy large swaths of the Adriatic coast, including parts of Dalmatia where Italian influence was minimal. Instead, Wilson and other leaders pushed for the creation of new nations based on ethnic boundaries, such as the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, which was formed from territories formerly part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. To maintain balance and peace in the Balkans, the Allies believed that awarding territory to Yugoslavia would be a more stabilizing solution than granting it to Italy. British and French concerns over stability. For Britain and France, supporting Yugoslavia over Italy served both diplomatic and strategic purposes. Establishing a friendly Slavic state on the Adriatic coast would create a buffer between Italy and Central Europe, helping to limit Italian influence and serving as a bulwark against potential threats from Germany or a resurgent Soviet Union. Britain and France also saw Yugoslavia as a new ally that could play a key role in the region's stability, which they valued more than honoring the promises made to Italy. Italian disillusionment and the mutilated victory. Italy's frustrations with the peace settlement grew as it became clear that it would not receive all the territories outlined in the Treaty of London. The phrase mutilated victory emerged, expressing Italy's national frustration and sense of injustice. Over 600,000 Italian soldiers had died in the war, and the Italian people felt their sacrifices were unappreciated and that their loyalty had been exploited. Italy did receive some territorial gains, including South Tyrol and Trentino, but the loss of promised lands in Dalmatia and other areas stung deeply. This disillusionment and resentment resonated strongly among the Italian population, who felt that the Entente's betrayal had deprived Italy of its rightful place among the great powers of Europe. Nationalist sentiments began to surge, and many Italians viewed the peace settlement as humiliating and unjust. The failure of the Allies to uphold the Treaty of London helped sow the seeds for a political shift within Italy, where dissatisfaction with the liberal government began to intensify. The rise of fascism and long-term consequences. The perceived betrayal at the Paris Peace Conference provided fertile ground for the rise of the fascist movement led by Benito Mussolini. Mussolini capitalized on the national sentiment of humiliation and anger, promising to restore Italy's honor and reclaim its place as a powerful nation. By appealing to the sense of betrayal, Mussolini garnered widespread support, leading to his eventual rise to power in 1922. The fascist government adopted an aggressive stance on foreign policy, ultimately aligning itself with Nazi Germany in World War II, a development that would have devastating consequences for Italy and Europe. In retrospect, the Entente's decision to prioritize stability over Italy's ambitions unintentionally contributed to the radicalization of Italian politics. Italy's shift towards fascism, driven in part by a deep-seated resentment of the Allies, altered the trajectory of European history in ways the leaders of the Paris Peace Conference could not have foreseen. Conclusion. The Entente's betrayal of Italy after World War I was shaped by shifting priorities and the competing interests of the major powers. While Britain and France sought stability and an alliance with Yugoslavia, Italy's aspirations were largely sidelined, leading to bitterness and disillusionment. This perceived injustice became a defining moment in Italian history, fueling nationalist sentiments that would later culminate in the rise of fascism and Italy's eventual alignment with Germany in World War II. The Entente's failure to meet Italy's expectations underscores how unfulfilled promises and perceived betrayals can have far-reaching consequences in shaping national identity and international relations.